Welcome to episode 1, the first ever episode of Supper Surfing. I'm so excited. I'm here with Ed Winters, also known as Earthling Ed, and he's gonna cook up a storm in the kitchen today. I think we're having a pasta dish. Do you wanna let us know what you're doing?
Well, the plan is to do a spaghetti carbonara, but obviously veganized. So we've got some plant-based bacon. We're gonna make a nice cashew creamy sauce using tofu, nutritional yeast, and I'm gonna fry up some mushrooms as well, because I think mushrooms are a treat in something like this. And then we'll fold all those ingredients together and we should have a delicious plant-based carbonara.
Sounds delicious. Shall we go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Supper Surfing is a series where I visit different people's homes and challenge them to cook a vegan meal for me, showing that, well, hopefully, everyone can cook a good vegan supper.
That looks good, Ed.
Well, we'll see.
I've never made a cashew sauce, like a cream base, but it seems to be what everyone's doing.
All the rage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the rage. Do you cook a lot? Or?
Yeah, I used to. Ironically, I used to want to be a chef when I was super young, when I was like 13, 14.
Really?
Yeah, and then, so I did food at like a GCSE, and then
Oh, wow.
I got work experience in a restaurant. I just, decided it wasn't for me. So maybe we'll do half a block of tofu in there.
Yeah. So we're going to use this Wicked kitchen seasoning. It's smoky bacon and maple, so it just creates like a really nice sweet flavour, kind of bacony. So we'll put that in with the vegan bacon to make it like even more bacony.
This is a great time to tell you that this episode is sponsored by Wicked Kitchen, but more about them later on. I was Ed's sous chef today. We finished up cooking his super easy vegan carbonara, all the creaminess with none of the dairy needed.
All right, there you
so
go.
Good.
Hope you like it.
Vegan carbonara.
Yeah.
So we've got Wicked cheese.
Great.
Should we grate?
Let's
should we
do
grate?
it. Very good, very good.
Should we grate some of it on top?
We should definitely grate some.
Yeah, Wicked have so many things now. Like you go into a supermarket and they literally have a product in every area.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like Wicked, I think is like a really great starter brand into veganism.
Yeah. The way that they do it is great because they're not pigeonholed into a specific category. You know, they're kind of like category agnostic, so you can find them all over the supermarket, as you say, in the different aisles with different products, and it's a brand that you can trust.
It's full on like good, wholesome food.
Absolutely, it's about delivering delicious food for people who want to eat vegan, you know, and eat more plants. So it's good, it's good, and this smells like it's definitely got some flavour to it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tuck in
Yeah,
and try
likewise.
some of the pasta. So you haven't been vegan like your entire life, you weren't born into a vegan family?
Certainly not, no, quite the opposite.
How did your family find it when you went vegan? Were they supportive? What was it like?
Yeah, they were fine.
Yeah,
I was lucky. I mean, they're not, you know, they've always been supportive of whatever I wanted to do, and being vegan was no exception. I mean, I don't think they necessarily understood it, and it's not something that they would necessarily do themselves, or at least not currently.
Yeah,
Really
no,
good.
that's really good.
Yeah.
But your girlfriend's vegan that you live with?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we were talking, obviously my partner isn't vegan, but he eats mostly vegan. But it must be nice to have like a partner who's like completely on the same level, eats completely vegan.
Well, we went vegan together.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And to be fair, she was the one who kind of encouraged me to do it a bit more than the other way around.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, but we did it together, and so everything we've done, or the whole journey, has been something we've done together.
That's really nice.
It's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, what would be your tip, I guess, for people that maybe don't have a partner that's vegan, or like family that are supportive, or...
I mean, I think just find people online, you know, you don't have to necessarily, you know, become friendly with them, but follow some accounts, you know, some food accounts, some, you know, educational accounts, whatever it may be, people that are speaking to you, you know, and who you resonate with, so that you don't feel so alone.
Yeah, it is amazing, the vegan community, because I mean, I went vegan nearly 4 years ago now, and literally as soon as I went vegan, I created an Instagram page and just built up such a community on there, and just learned so much from everyone, learned a lot about cooking, because I started just sharing kind of basic cooking stuff, but like I got really all my cooking inspo, all my like restaurant, like where to go, where to eat, like everything, all from Instagram.
Really?
Like, yeah.
I mean, it's such a great platform for that, isn't it?
Yeah, by the way, this is really good.
Okay,
this
good.
Is so good. We're like in-depth in conversations, but this is so nice.
Okay, I'm happy to hear it.
But I think on Instagram, there's like so many different types of vegan. So you said obviously like what I do is like show recipes or go to a restaurant and review it and things like that, and then there's things that you do, so you have your debates and you're more educational and things like that. How did you choose, like what made you decide that that's what you wanted to do, that you wanted to go and have your debates and you wanted to be educational? Like, what kind of sparked that?
How did that happen? I don't know. There was just a couple of us in London, and we were like, should we go out and just do this and see what happens? And so we went out a couple of times, and I just started enjoying it. It seemed to do it quite well, so we just kept going really, and it just kind of grew from there.
And I feel that's what you're like known for, the debates, the kind of at the table with the sign, and so you're doing that in America a lot now as well.
Yeah.
Is it more intense in America? Like, is it more like, are they more extreme? Is it more?
Oh yeah, certainly. People there are much more likely to sit down and tell you what they think and how they feel. And I think a lot of people, especially younger people now, when they see cameras and they see something happening, they kind of get intrigued, you know. And sometimes people sit down and they're just like, oh, I just want to give it a go.
Yeah, so with those debates, what's been like your most extreme experience with someone that hasn't been vegan, like an intense moment?
That's a great question. I had an experience in Dallas, actually. The University of Dallas. When I say Dallas, it's probably not the most surprising place in the world.
Yeah, right? To have like an intense anti-vegan situation.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was at Dallas University, and I'd set up a sign, and this guy walked past with a couple of friends, and he's like, oh, you guys go on ahead, I've got to do this, it'll be great. So he sits down, and you know, before we start filming, I always make a little bit of small talk with people, just you know, to personalize them, to personalize myself, and so we get to know one another, and so it's not so weird. So I'll ask them like, you know, where are you from? What are you doing? What do you study? Blah blah blah. And instantly he was like, he wouldn't give me his name, didn't tell me what he was doing. So I actually literally thought that he didn't study, he wasn't part of the campus, and he was just wandering through, and he was just like some member of the public, because he was acting very erratically and strangely. Anyway, we start filming, and instantly he's just aggressive and like in my face, and he's talking over me, and he's just spewing out all of this stuff, like he won't let me get a word in. And so I say to him, you know, are you going to let me speak, or are you going to dominate this conversation? And he leans up, so he's like right here up in my face, and he goes, I'm going to dominate this conversation because you can't. He's like, I eat meat, I work out, I'm going to I want to show you how weak you are or something.
Stop.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, why are you being like this? You don't need to be like this, can you? Just like debate me. And he basically says that all you know, the opinions and all debates, you know, it's all about violence. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Is it?
I was like, this doesn't sound good. I've got
Debates about violence?
Yeah,
oh
I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not. As he walked off, I said, you know, just so you know, you're a bit of a loser. So he comes back, and he like grabs my arm. So he's like stood behind me, grabs my arm, and he comes up, and he whispers in my ear, do you want to fight about it? Do you want to have a fight about it? And I was like, no. Anyway, turns out he's a professor at the university. Can you believe it? It was a bit of a weird experience. So funnily enough, the most aggressive person I had was actually a professor.
A professor?
At the university. So
at his university?
At his own university where he is employed. So yeah, there is different reactions, definitely. I found that, you know, I've spoken with people across the spectrum, hunters, you know, farmers, you know, heads of farmers unions, even, you know, just everyday meat eaters, of course. The reactions you get are very different. And I'm always very quick to defend people for doing things that they do in this case, because, you know, we're raised in societies and cultures and part of traditions where what we do to animals is normalized, you know, and legal, and our families do it and our friends do it. So to question the ethics of such a thing is quite hard for people sometimes. And so I totally appreciate that. And even with, you know, the everyday farmer, you know, they're raised in communities where farming's normal, their family, you know, their parents and grandparents probably farmed and passed the farm down to them, so it's a generational thing. There's a huge amount of baggage that comes with it, you know, as well as their livelihoods, as well as their support financially, as well as from a community perspective. So there's a lot that lies on it. And so the people I believe should be held most responsible are those that are heads of these organisations. You know, they're the ones lobbying to governments. They're the ones who know what the scientific literature is.
They have the knowledge, they have the stats, they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Do you have that one person that you'd be like, I would love to debate them. I would love to have them in a room and debate them. Is there one person?
That's a good question. I mean, to be fair, Jeremy Clarkson's been on my mind a lot recently. He's living rent-free in there at the moment. He's just like... Just because he's been quite vocal against it. He has this farming show.
Yes, the farm show. What's his farm? Oh, I'm not going to remember.
Farm, isn't it? Yeah. So there's definitely a couple of those like celebrity types that I think would be interesting to have a conversation with.
Yeah,
Piers
they're already
Morgan
quite...
would be a good
Yeah,
one.
I was wondering if you were going to say Piers Morgan, because I've seen like a lot of like reaction videos from you about Piers and the things he says, and I mean, he's just so vocal about hating vegans, and he doesn't really seem to have a key valid reason to.
No. The problem with him is he doesn't let anyone else speak. You know, so it's like, you know, I feel like if you want to have a debate with someone, you want it to be someone who you can listen, who will listen to you, who will respond to you, you know, genuinely, and won't try to be fallacious or anything, and he's not.
I would love to see you have a debate with Piers Morgan.
It would be something.
That would be so good. Something that I really want to know for myself, and I feel like probably a lot of people want to know, is what would be your main tips for having open conversations like what you do? Because you have the rare occasion, very rare, where it gets heated, but it's never really, well, no, it's not never really, it's never you that gets heated.
I mean, the problem is, I think what I found at the beginning when I started, I was a lot more I think quick to get riled up and to seem annoyed and seem frustrated. And I think a lot of it stems from not necessarily knowing what to say.
Yeah.
So, if someone asks you a question about omega-3, long chain fatty acids, and you're like, oh, I'm not 100% sure what they are, you're going to feel a little bit annoyed because you might feel like you're letting yourself down or letting veganism down. And that's how I used to feel. So if you have a friend or a family member and they're obsessed with this one thing, just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes just to quickly look into what a good response would be. You don't have to be an expert on everything because that's obviously impossible.
No.
But just maybe take the time to research what it is that they most likely will ask you next time you bring it up. And I also think don't be afraid of saying you don't know something.
Yeah.
I think we often with debates think that we have to win every point, or we have to always be right, or we always have to come out on top. So if someone says something to you and you don't know, I think it's okay to be like, I'm not fully aware of that, but I would love to go home, have a look into it, and then maybe I could come back with a more educated point. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant. We're all ignorant about something. I think actually there's a humility and an honesty and a sincerity to admitting that, and I think you'll gain someone's respect. I think it's good to do that sometimes, and it makes the points you are right about even more solid.
So there's been a lot of people, I think celebrities, who have been vegan and then are not vegan anymore. I wondered how you felt about that.
Obviously, it's not ideal. When you think about celebrities, the big ones that come to mind, Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
But the problem is when I listened to Miley Cyrus talking about it, she was complaining about like having brain fog, which suggests she wasn't getting enough omega-3s. Maybe she wasn't eating enough healthy fats. I think often people go back because they go, oh, something's wrong, therefore I'm going to stop being vegan.
Yeah.
But I think with veganism, there's this stereotype where if something's wrong, it's the fault of veganism. But let's say that you eat meat, right? And you eat just the standard diet and you start getting a bit of brain fog or you're a bit tired. You don't then change your entire diet.
Yeah, you're not going to say, oh, it's meat that's doing it, I'm going to yum.
Maybe use a couple of sites. There's one called a chronometer, and you can just track what you're eating, and then you know if you're hitting all your targets. So that's what I would say. Not ideal, but society and culture has this impression of veganism, which means I understand why people jump to that conclusion.
And obviously your book touches on like literally each chapter, is around different things, right? Like the sustainability side, all the different parts.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind the book was to lay out all the reasons to be vegan, and then it's split into 3 sections. So the first section is looking at the ethical aspects of it. That's the reason I'm vegan. It's what I talk about mostly. The second section is all about the other reasons. A whole chapter on the environment, looking at all the different, the latest research, exploring what, the growing consensus of opinion is around these issues. And then obviously there's a health section there. Yeah. So how to get protein, how to get iron, how to be healthy, dispelling some of those myths. There's also a section all about pandemics and infectious diseases. What we do to animals increases the risk of these things, antibiotic resistance. And then the final section is looking at the psychology, what we were talking about a little bit before, the why. It's easy to maybe intellectually understand something, but then when we're talking about identity and personality and individuality and all of these things, sometimes making rational choices isn't what we as humans are good at doing, because we have this emotional side to us. We have this, the psychological side to us, where we may just do something because everyone else around us is doing it. And the last section, the last chapter is all about communication. When we talk about veganism, the objective isn't, or at least my objective is never to make someone become vegan because I tell them they should. It's to give them the knowledge or the tools to understand that there's something that they want to do. And I think when we start to reflect on how we treat animals and how we view animals and how we, produce foods, and we start to ask questions like, what do we want the future to look like? Do we want a habitable, sustainable world? Yeah. Do we want a world that treats people and animals included within that with compassion and benevolence? Because all of these things are kind of values and aspirations that we all share. If you ask someone for their utopian world, it's a world which doesn't have suffering, a world where people are treated equally, a world where animals are considered. But what we do to animals when we eat them is the opposite of this aspiration, because it's contributing to a system of agriculture that's destroying our planet. The ending of the book is trying to make the point that this change is a really important change. And whilst it's easy to fall into hyperbole, really the power of food can't be overstated because it influences us in so many ways. It's not just about nutrition and calories, it's about so much more than that. And I think when we can empower ourselves to recognize that every mouthful we take is, voting for the world that we want to live in, it becomes really, I think, for me at least, it becomes empowering to know that I can make a difference. There are issues all around the world, fossil fuel, war, famine, and we feel a bit helpless. But what we sit down and eat every single day is something we have control over. And I think it's rewarding to know that there is this massive thing that we can do that we don't need to rely on anyone else to do. We actually have the power to do it ourselves. And I love that aspect of it.
No, I love that too.
So the paperback release comes out in a couple of days' time, actually.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was released on hardback last year, so early 2022.
Yeah,
lovely. But the paperback comes out, in a couple of days. So you can get it obviously online, Amazon, but Waterstones, Foyles, most good bookstores, or all the good ones. But then online as well, of course. So hope everyone likes it if they get it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. It's honestly been such a pleasure talking to you. I could talk to you for another couple of hours.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
I haven't hardly eaten anything because I've just been chatting. So now we can eat everything up.
Yes,
and but thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Izzy, for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
Of course.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss this next guest.